9:05. Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Speaking of what should be making headlines in Texas, and really what should be making headlines across the U.S. You know, earlier we were talking about this the Mueller stuff and how it's going to be Mueller mania this week, and a news story that really is not being talked a lot about is the USMCA trade deal. Remember that? Remember when that was announced? And remember how it was a big deal brought up by the president. The president's still trying to get that through Congress. Our next guest joining us here on the Chad Hasty Show on KFYO, the vice president of the National Association of Manufacturers, Linda Dempsey, joining us here on the program to talk about that trade deal that, Linda, it doesn't seem to be making a lot of headlines these days. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
Well,
we're pretty excited about this trade agreement. We think it certainly has the ability to move, probably now in the fall. But we just want to make sure everybody is aware how important this is for the manufacturing sector, for our workers, and frankly, for the country and the state.
You know, and even, Linda, even if you're not in manufacturing, you know, out here in West Texas, obviously ag is the dominant trade out here, but even agriculture is something that's going to be affected by the USMCA trade deal. What's the holdup? What has the holdup been, and why is this good for everyone in the state of Texas?
Well, the holdup is, it's Washington. Do I need to say much?
There you go. That's easy enough.
Look, there's work going on right now between the Speaker Pelosi in the House, and she's got a group of Democrats working with the administration's trade lead, Ambassador Bob Lighthizer, the U.S. trade representative, trying to get a few more items cleared out as part of this trade agreement. Those talks are going well as far as we can see. We're continuing to push all sides to move them along quickly, because the more this stays out there, the more uncertainty there is for manufacturers and, as you say, our farmers and all parts of the economy in Texas and beyond. This is a great new agreement for a wide number of sectors and workers throughout the economy. It updates this 25-year-old NAFTA relationship that has been important to Texas, but we really need to take it into the 21st century, and this agreement does that. It opens markets, including for our farmers and our manufacturers. It has new digital rules, new rules to protect our intellectual property against foreign theft, and also raises standards across the board, all subject to enforcement. So things like labor and environment and transparency raises standards, so we'll be competing on a more level playing field with Mexico and Canada.
You know, Linda, I'm sure that your organization has heard from folks who remember when NAFTA was first passed, when NAFTA was being talked about. It was held as a great deal, and for obviously President Trump and others, they look at NAFTA and went, not so. It hasn't been so great. It's been good in some areas, bad in some areas. Where's the improvement with the USMCA?
So there are a ton of improvements. I think a lot of the improvement really gets to what I was talking about in terms of leveling the playing field, making sure that when our farmers, our manufacturers are competing with those in Canada or Mexico, that we're doing it on with the same types of standards. So there's increased labor standards, other standards. There's rules to prevent them from taking advantage of our innovation. There's rules to open up their markets more. And look, we've come into a new digital age. It's important. You know, our farmers are looking at their devices and seeing their crop yield. Our manufacturers are using these new technologies on the shop floor. We've had to update these rules and make it better. So I think there's a lot for all the different sectors, for the workers, and frankly, for growing trade. These two trading partners purchase more from the United States than our next 11 countries combined, and frankly, they purchase more from Texas than the rest of the world combined, because Texas is such a big supplier to Mexico in particular, but also Canada.
And Linda, I want you to talk about that. How much trade, on the manufacturing side and just overall trade between Texas and Mexico, how much trade is there, and how important is that?
So there is, we export about about $123 billion just to Canada and Mexico in terms of manufactured goods. That's about half of what we export to every place around the world out of Texas. We've got about over 100,000 manufacturing jobs tied directly just to those exports to Canada and Mexico. And 1 out of 4 manufacturing firms in Texas exports to Canada and Mexico. These are outsized markets, outsized trading partners of the United States. And in some cases, we do things together. We make glass here. We send that glass down to Mexico, and they fill it up with some beverages we all like and bring it back here. And that's good for everybody. That's good for our consumers, for our manufacturers. A lot of ag products go into a lot of this production as well, whether it's food or unprocessed agriculture products. So it's very much a win-win-win.
What about Mexico and Canada? Are they on board with the USMCA so far?
They are. Mexico has actually ratified the agreement. They also, a few months ago, put in place, as a result of this agreement, a brand new labor law raising standards closer to U.S. standards so that they can't compete on an unfair basis. Canada is ready to go. Virtually at any moment, but they've got an election up there in October, and so they're trying to figure out when's the best time for them to take it up. But we expect Canada to move quickly. We're hoping that the work ongoing right now between the USTR, the administration, and the House moves forward quickly, and that we're going to see this trade agreement early in the fall being voted on in both the House and Senate. All
right. So politics in the U.S. and politics in Canada kind of slowing things down right now. How about that? Linda, what can, the average person who is paying attention to this, I think more people should be paying attention to this, and there should be more focus on things like this in the media. But what can the average person do? Is this something where they need to urge their local leaders to get things moving in D.C.?
Absolutely. Look, I would like everybody who's listening today to reach out to their local congressmen in particular, reach out to their senators, tell them why this is important and that it's important to get this done. In a few weeks, members of Congress are going to be coming back to the state. They're going to be holding town halls. They're going to be in their offices. It'd be great if folks could, go request an appointment or call into that office or, go to a town hall and talk about why this is important. And don't forget your local community leaders either, whether they're mayors or others, and certainly the governor's on board here, but letting them know how important this is. We believe, and we just did a big fly-in last week here in Washington, D.C. We had over 130 meetings in one day with manufacturers from Texas and other parts of the country. And we believe that there's a lot of support there. We just got to get it over the finish line, and hearing from people like your listeners would be wonderful.
Very good. Vice President of the National Association of Manufacturers, Linda Dempsey, here on the Chad Hasty Show. Linda, appreciate your time. Have a good week, and keep on pushing for that USMCA trade deal.
Thanks so much for having me. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you very much for joining us.